Hey, greetings everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Plan B Success. We have an exciting guest today, Amy Perkins from Keys to Courage. So to tell you a little bit about Amy, she was an elementary school teacher for a long time in her career, and she was really happy with what she was doing. She continued down the education path, irrespective of the money, and then something happened in her life probably a couple of years ago or a year ago with her friend that caused her to pivot to what she's doing today, to start the Keys to Courage brand where she's doing multiple things, courses, a podcast, and other things. So let's hear it directly from Amy. Welcome, Amy.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing with Keys to Courage.
Yeah, well, like you said, I started teaching elementary school 26 years ago. And I really had felt like I won the jackpot, the lottery in careers, because I was able to do a job that I went to every day that lit me up from the inside out. And I feel now that I'm 47, what a gift to have at 21 years old, to be in a career where you really felt that pure joy. And while teachers are not known to make a ton of money, the money didn't matter. And I was fine. I had roommates. We had this wonderful life. We all were teachers, and I ended up just making it work. I was able to buy my own house as a single woman in my 20s. I started a tutoring business to supplement my teaching income, and that's how I was able to save up enough money for a down payment, and life was good. After I got done teaching, I knew once I had my own kids that I wasn't going to be able to give my heart and my soul to the classroom like I had done for 9 years. And so I pivoted into more of a leadership role. I was doing consulting and coaching, and I was doing workshops and trainings, and I had been a master teacher. So for the latter part of my career, I was not in the classroom teaching myself, but I was working with new teachers. And like you said, a pivotal moment, 3 years ago, almost to the day, 3 years ago, October 11th of 2016, my best friend from college died. And, we all have people in our lives that pass away. The one constant that we all know for sure is we are all going to die. But The death of this vibrant, joyful, loving, dear friend of mine was a massive awakening.
And that's where you made the shift?
It's where I made the shift. And I made this silent promise to her after she died. She was a single mom. She had a 2-year-old baby boy. And I promised her that as long as I was living, I was going to do whatever it took to live an amazing life, one that lit me up in all areas of my life. And I had kind of been going through the motions. I think a lot of us do. I think we start just going through the motions and not even realizing like we're on autopilot. I was kind of on autopilot. And while the consulting job and the coaching job that I was doing at the time, I did like, that year after my best friend died, there was a lot going on that just didn't sit well with me in the leadership. There was a huge lack of integrity going on. And because of the death of my friend, that pull inside of me and listening to those whispers from the universe, I knew that it was time to pivot. And so about a year and a half after she died, I walked away from that 25-year career. It was really terrifying.
So, when you were actually teaching elementary, I'm sure that was great because, I saw on your website that some of your students you met that you were teaching back then and now they're wives and moms, and, that I'm sure is absolutely gratifying to see them thrive now. And then, so after you made the shift from being in a leadership role to what you're doing now, so what was that shift? Can you talk about that?
So when I quit, I didn't have a plan B. Luckily, my husband and I, once we had my daughter, which was almost 17 years ago, we never lived to our max income. We always saved. We saved my salary pretty much. So my salary was not dependent on keeping a roof over our heads or keeping food on the table. So I was in a really lucky position that we put ourselves in to where while we did need my income, it was going to be okay that I took some time to figure that out. And I started, before I quit, I had started a side business because the only way to get clarity, and I didn't have clarity when Tracy died. I didn't know what that amazing life looked like, but I was trying to get back to that feeling in my career of when I was first teaching, that lit up from the inside out, where you would work. I mean, I felt like I would get these paychecks, and I couldn't believe I actually got paid for doing something that I loved. And I wanted to get back to that feeling. So I was taking steps trying to get that clarity, because the only way that you can get clarity is to take action. And honestly, one of the things that I did, I thought maybe I needed to be a teacher again, a full-time classroom teacher. My kids were now 10 and 15. And I thought maybe that's what I need. Maybe I need to get back into the classroom. So that action that I talk about to get to clarity, I had to redo my resume. My resume had not been updated in over 20 years. I started doing that. I had to get my transcripts. I probably went to 10 colleges all in total over my 25 years in education, because I had a master's degree, I had a teaching credential, I had a bachelor's degree, and 100 units past my bachelor's degree. So I had to track down all those units, because when you're in education, you're really on a lifelong learning path. You're always learning, you're always taking courses. And I had to track down all of those transcripts. That was a big action that I had to undertake. I had to apply for jobs. I was going out to schools, meeting principals, trying to find the schools that I wanted to be at. So as I went on, taking these actionable steps, I started to feel inside kind of sick. And I think too many times people don't listen to that feeling inside, and we just keep going because we've started something.
Right.
Like, I had invested a lot of time in getting my resume done, paid a lot of money to get my transcripts, and meeting all these principals and applying for these jobs. Like, there was a lot of time invested, but I paid attention to that feeling inside, and I was feeling sick.
So what happened after that?
So I am a full believer that the universe delivers. It delivers if we're awake and we're open to listening. And I was at a cabin in Tahoe, which isn't far from where we live, with my family. And my friend Tracy that passed away, she had been at that cabin on vacation with my family and I for my 21st birthday. So over 20 years ago. And that day, her mom and her dad, who are raising her little boy, were coming to meet us at the cabin. And I got an email. And that email was an invitation to go to an interview. And I knew, I just had this knowing that my answer was no. And I almost felt the presence of my friend there that day. I don't believe in coincidences. And I knew what I had to say, and I responded with, thank you for your time. I thank you for reaching out and allowing me the opportunity for the interview. I knew that hundreds of people applied for these jobs and very few even made it to the interview process. But I said, I think there's a different path for me. And so I'm going to pass at this time. And that's what I did. I said no.
Wow. So then you set out on this journey, Keys to Courage. How did that come about? How did you come up with that name?
Well, on that path, so I was doing things to figure out what I needed to do to get back to that space that lit me up. And one of the things I thought was maybe getting back into teaching. Another thing I thought was maybe I need to start like a side business. And so I did. I took that action. I just kept taking action to find the clarity. And when I was starting the side business, I knew that eventually this business was going to have a team. And I wanted to reach out to someone that I admired in business that I could talk to about building a team. And so my kid's pediatric dentist, this woman, her name's Dr. Joelle Speed, she has this phenomenal thriving practice. And whenever I went to her practice to take the kids to the dentist, I always felt so welcomed by her team. I felt that everybody on that team worked really cohesively together, that they all wanted to be there. And so I thought maybe if I could meet with this woman that I admired and see what she did to get this amazing team in place, maybe I could get a few tips and tools from her as I was going on my journey. But the version of me back then, I was really like enveloped in fear. I had been living this life that was really comfortable, and I really only did things that I knew I would succeed at.
Right.
And I didn't even understand that until I went on this journey. But again, after Tracy died, I was just determined to do whatever it took, kind of to get out of my comfort zone, to get out of that space of going through the motions. And that ticket for me was pushing through fear. And so I did. I mean, I felt really sick, like sick to my stomach, but I reached out to my kid's dentist. And, what I want to say right now to anybody listening that might feel like I did, like, there's things you want to do, but you stop because of fear. My fear when looking back now, had that fear of rejection. I had that fear of failure. I had a fear of being told no. And so looking at why I was scared to reach out to that doctor, in my mind, that story I was telling myself was, what if she says no? What if she ignores you? What if she doesn't respond? What if you go back to the dentist and it's really awkward? But I didn't care. I cared, but I pushed through that fear anyway and reached out to her. And luckily, she didn't respond with a no. And reaching out to her was one of those pivotal moments in my life that if I had not done that, I would not be where I am right now. She responded with, I was very specific. I said, can I have 5 minutes of your time? I admire this business that you built. Every time I go in your practice, the team is amazing. They're so cohesive. I'm going to be starting a business. I would love to know a few very specific things you did as you built this team. Right. Would you give me 5 minutes of your time on a phone call? So I was really specific. I didn't just say, can I pick your brain?
Right.
Because she's a doctor. She's a business professional. I think so many times, I know now, I have people all the time, they just want to get on a call with me. They say, hey, can I get on a call with you? Well, I'm very busy and I can't just get on the call with strangers. If somebody's very specific, I absolutely will get back to them in an email or a message if I can, but I value other people's time, and that's how I looked at this meeting with her. I wanted her to know I valued her time. So she responded with, absolutely, but she said, let's not do a phone call, let's go get coffee. So that coffee date, we met, and that 20-minute coffee date that I was hoping for turned into 3 hours. And not only did she share with me, the tips that I needed, she listened to this career, this business that I was wanting to start, which was totally different than what I'm doing now. I was trying to figure out what I loved and combine that and create something. It was a fitness business for kids that I was going to take into schools. And again, I just kept taking that action to get clarity because I didn't know what that thing was, but I just kept going for it. So she said, she had a necklace on, and she said, have you heard of the Giving Keys? And I hadn't. And she said, it's a company, and they employ people getting out of homelessness, and they engrave words on keys. And my key says believe. And when you're done with your key, you pass it on to somebody that needs it more than you do. And she said, I'm going to give you my believe key. Wow. Okay. And I want you to believe in this business that you're doing every step of the way. And it was a moment. It's one of those moments in our lives that we don't quite know how big it is, but we know that it's big and meaningful and important. Right. And we both had tears and we both had goosebumps and we both knew not what the future held, but that something big was coming. And that dentist, that woman is now one of my best friends. And we have been on this crazy journey together. We've spoken at conferences together. I am now her business consultant and team coach at her dental practice for her entire team. And again, none of that was even a thought or a concept or a wildest dream, but me pushing through fear. You hear all these quotes about, push through fear, like the magic's on the other side. And I am living proof that every time I've pushed through that fear, there truly was magic on the other side. So that key, that believe key for me was that moment that I realized I needed to believe in myself. Like this doctor believes in me, I need to believe in myself. And I just pushed through fear every step of the way. When I was starting that business, setting up meetings, going into schools, meeting with teachers and superintendents and business partners. And I created that business and I did it for a year. But like I said, action gives you clarity. And I got to that year point and I realized it's time to pivot. This isn't what I meant to do.
So that it came a full circle for you with the doctor there. So
oh yeah.
So how did you pivot after that? After a year of doing this, then what did you do?
So simultaneously, I was doing that fitness business and I was still coaching. I was still doing the educational coaching for the county office. And again, not coincidentally, the universe delivers what we need. I worked with new teachers in their first 2 years of teaching. And the new teacher, one of the ones in my caseload, was one of my former kindergarten students from 20 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
Her mom found me and she said, Emily was in your kindergarten class and now she's a new teacher and I know that you do coaching and I would love if you could be her coach. And so I worked with the county and I made that happen. And Emily was being treated really badly by her administrator. And when I went to my higher ups, it's a long story, but basically there was just a lack of integrity everywhere. And again, I got that sick feeling in my stomach. And it really went on for about 8 months. And finally, I realized I couldn't do this job that at one point in my life lit me up from the inside out, was now making me sick and sad. And the integrity and leadership was not aligned with my core values. And I felt like I couldn't make the difference that I had set out to make in education any longer without support. It came down to, I asked my supervisor's supervisor, who was a woman that I had at one time admired, if I could have help and have someone come with me to a meeting because of what was going on. And I was told no, I couldn't have anybody come with me to this meeting that I needed to go to with a man that I was really uncomfortable being with. So yeah, that new teacher was fired. And when she got fired, I quit.
Wow. Okay.
So that was that pivot out of education. Emily now, that was all meant to be because I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. And I ended up helping guide her, helping her design her dream job, which is what I do now for other people. I have a course on designing your dream life. And one of those components is designing your dream job. And it's what I did for myself. And I helped her design what her perfect teaching job would look like. And 4 months later, she found that job with that staff, with that administrator, and she even got a $6,000 raise. And so Emily's story has a happy ending, and mine does too.
Awesome. So under your brand, Keys to Courage, what are all the things that you do?
So I was coaching in education for 17 years. I was trained formally in cognitive coaching. I had hundreds of hours of training and thousands of hours experience coaching. It was just in the realm of education. But what I didn't realize, and I think what a lot of people don't realize, is these skills that we have in one area of our life are totally transferable to other areas. I started working with that doctor, that dentist, Dr. Joelle Speed, and I was just sharing tips and tools and ideas with her. And everything that I shared with her, she started implementing and seeing like massive results in her business. And after doing that just as a friend for about 6 months, and my husband's also in the dental field, and he would say to me, Amy, these things you're coming up with, like nobody's doing this. Like you're thinking totally outside of the box and you're having these crazy results. Like you have something really special to add. So I approached her about 6 months into helping just for free because she was a friend. Right. And then I said, hey, what if you bring me on as a client? I will work 6 to 8 hours in office with your staff. I will coach the whole staff. And she was like, absolutely. So after those 6 months of not having a paycheck, after I quit, I replaced my salary with that one job. So I'm 6 to 8 hours a week coaching consulting for that pediatric dental practice. I also do keynote speaking and I do panel speaking for various topics in various conferences and various organizations. I have an online course that it's packaged up for those people that are self-starters that don't need that hand-holding, but they want that roadmap to get from, I know I want something more, but I don't know the first step. And what I did for my first step, and I designed it and I got very specific and I went through very specific steps and I took my master's degree in curriculum design. I designed a workbook and a video and I packaged it up and somebody can just buy that and they can take it and start those steps like I did. And I also do one-on-one coaching and I'm now launching my own wine. It's called Every Gal. It's bottled to inspire.
Wow. Okay.
And also on a monthly TV segment where I am coaching women on life transformation. So in a year and a half, I went from not knowing where my life would go to doing these things. And I'm Very much so lit up from the inside out once again.
That's awesome, Amy. That's awesome. That's awesome progress in about a year and a half. Tell me a little bit about your podcast. So what do you do there?
So my podcast is very different. It is host on mic. It is just me, and I share actionable steps and tools and parts of my story starting back when my friend died. And I want to give people the keys to courage. And if you listen to my podcast and you never work with me, you can change your life. If you just listen to each episode and you implement the steps I did. I talk about how I overcame imposter syndrome and what that looked like. I talk about how I manifested these crazy, amazing things in my life and how I did it with my children, how I've done it with my husband, how I've created literally dream friends and this dream life that is possible for everybody once you can get this mindset shift and you start taking steps and you take those steps to get clarity. So that's my podcast. It's a little different.
Okay. How often do you do that?
Once a week.
Once a week. Okay, great. So let me ask you this. So, when you look at what you've done, there's two aspects to it. There's the creative aspect. There's also the tactical aspect, more the nuts and bolts of how to go about it, whether it's marketing or setting up your social campaigns or, your websites and all that. So where do you see your strengths lie and what did you do to fulfill or to replace your weaknesses in order to get help?
Such a great question. I am a self-proclaimed tech-challenged middle-aged mom. If someone would have told me 2 years ago, you're going to have a website, a blog, a weekly newsletter, a podcast on iTunes, a course online, I would have said you're crazy. But what I realized when Tracy died and I set out to do anything possible to create this life that I could share her legacy and I could make her proud and make myself proud, is that you can learn anything at any time, at any age, if you're willing to do the work. So what I did, my brother is a graphic designer, and I knew that he could help me get the website started. So I partnered up with him, and he gave me a family rate so that I could at least get a website launched.
Right.
I learned how to do a newsletter. I learned how to do a blog. I spent hours and hours and hours. I woke up at 4:30 every morning listening to podcasts on entrepreneurship, watching videos on YouTube on how to build email lists, watching videos on YouTube on marketing, downloading books on Audible. One of my big mentors from afar is Seth Godin. And again, when I say I've manifested crazy things, this man, when I started reading his work, it really gave me that shift for me to realize I wasn't crazy when I was in the education job and seeing all this lack of integrity. His work really made me feel not alone because everybody around me, when I would tell them what was going on, all my peers and then my superiors, it was kind of like, this is how it is. Well, Seth's work was more, this isn't how it has to be. That's the status quo, but it doesn't have to be okay with you. And so here's this man who's a billionaire who is a New York Times bestseller. I had no idea in my mind that I was going to have a podcast. That was not even a thought, but I subscribed to Seth's email and I got an email one day and at the very bottom of it, it said, want to start a podcast? Join the Podcasting Fellowship. And I was like, yes, Seth, I do want to start a podcast if you're involved. I signed up the next day. And in this podcasting fellowship, Seth was in there a tiny bit. He would pop in and pop out. I was on 2 Zoom calls with him, which was amazing. But the really amazing thing, one day I posted my first podcast episode because you were supposed to post your work into the group. There were a couple thousand people in the group and we give each other feedback.
Right.
The first person to hear my first episode and to give me feedback was Seth Godin.
Awesome.
And he said that my podcast was moving and magical and that Tracy would be so proud of what I did. And I'm telling you, I sat in my closet where I record my podcast and I sobbed because I know that she is my angel and she's guiding me every step of the way. And she truly lost her life, but she saved my life. She saved my life. Right. She woke me up. And I want to help wake other people up because you don't have to go through the loss of a best friend or a spouse or a child to wake up to the unlimited possibilities that we all have in our lives.
Right. Absolutely. So, one of the things that you mentioned is that you knew you wanted to pivot. You knew you wanted to do something different. You started down a path and it's totally different where you are now. And that's evolution. That's change and that's progress.
Yep.
But when you look back at the last 3 odd years that you've been doing this,
yeah,
what would I'm sure you've had times when things were low, things were high, times when did you ever have a moment where you rethought it and said, did I take the right step?
Honestly, I didn't, because that desire to make her proud, mm-hmm. and that desire that I had to make this life as amazing as I could, no matter what it took, it was just this fuel, like this rocket fuel. I wrote things down. I didn't know how they were going to happen, but I just started writing things down. And one of the things I wrote down was Tracy's story will be known worldwide. And again, I was an educational coach. Like what I'm doing, a podcast, none of this was even a thought.
Right.
But I knew that I wanted the world to know her story. And now my podcast is downloaded thousands of times on every continent. My videos are seen on multiple platforms, hundreds of thousands of times a week. Mm-hmm. It's crazy what has happened. And it all boils down to that belief, like that key. I just believed. If you have the desire for something, which I did, mm-hmm. and you have the belief that it's possible and you take action, anything is possible. I never once doubted anything. Once I started down the path, I just kept going. Pivoting is not failing. Right. I think people equate pivoting with failing, it's not. I think we need to realize when it's time to pivot, and I'm a master at that knowing.
I have a few questions for you, Amy. I'm just going to throw them out there and just tell me whatever comes to your mind. What are you most thankful for so far in life?
Right now, I have just had this depth of gratitude for life. When Tracy got sick with ovarian cancer, one of the lessons that I learned that's really changed my life was being grateful for what we have right here, right now in the present. And I had the ability to sleep pain-free, mm-hmm. and my friend didn't. I had a husband, and even though we fought once in a while, I had a partner to support me in parenting. My friend didn't. She was driving herself to chemo. Mm-hmm. She didn't have that. I was able, even though I had bad hair days, I had hair. My friends didn't. Her getting sick, it really transformed my life with gratitude. I don't complain. I used to complain. I think a lot of people do about mundane things. But that gratitude, like living in gratitude, I live in gratitude every single day. Gratitude for being alive one more day. Gratitude for having what I have right here, right now, not wanting someone else's life, not wanting more money. What I have right now, I'm grateful for. Am I going to have more money? Absolutely. Do I have goals? Yes, but I don't need that for my happiness. And because I have everything I need at this moment right now, my life is a life that's full of joy.
Awesome. That's pretty inspiring. What are you most scared of?
I'm not scared of much anymore. Right now, I don't have any fears. Right. I feel like, again, all the things I'm doing, I am running toward my dreams like I am on fire. 7 months ago, I had the idea as I was driving to visit my best friend in Napa that I was going to have a wine. And it was going to be bottled to inspire. And it was going to bring women together. And it was going to be that wine with a story. And I was a kindergarten teacher. Like, there's no rational sense that I'd be able to launch my own wine label. It doesn't make rational sense. But I just believed, and I spoke it out loud, and I spoke it to enough people, and I had enough people believe in my passion and my vision and want to partner with me and help me and make this come to fruition. My fears, if I feel them, I just push through them. I don't really have many fears.
That's great. That's great. What are you most happy about?
I am just grateful for all the people in my life, my relationships, the people that love me, the people that I love. That includes my husband. My parents are still alive. My kids are healthy. I have friends that I've had for 40 plus years. I have friends that I've had for 30 years. I met Tracy, the one that passed away when I was in college. I am so grateful that my parents raised me knowing what was important and modeling the importance of relationships, because I think so many people, especially today, don't have that. And I think that leads to loneliness, sadness, depression, and this crazy epidemic that we have of people trying to fill voids with stuff.
Right.
And really, it's self-love and it's other people. That is what we need to have a life of joy. I mean, I'm not a millionaire. I personally am not making six figures right now, but I feel rich, just like I felt when I was making $22,000 in teaching kindergarten. Like, I feel rich in my soul. And because I do, I have no doubt that the money's going to follow.
And what do you look forward to?
Everything. I know I am on this path, and what's ahead, I don't know, but I know it is a beautiful future. I know that what I'm doing is causing ripples to affect other people's lives and to light sparks in them to go run after their dreams like they're on fire too, like I am.
You feel like the best adventure that you're on right now, right?
Oh, it is. It's not getting to the destination. And for so many years, I was like an Uber planner. I wanted to know the outcome. I wanted to control it. I wanted to get there. And I see how much of life I missed by not enjoying the journey. And right now, I am enjoying every second of the journey, the pivots and all.
That's pretty awesome. And what would you like your legacy to be?
I think what I would like my legacy to be would be to be someone that was able to light a spark in someone else to go live their best life ever. Kind of like the inspiration that when Tracy died and I promised her I would do whatever it took, without having to lose someone, I want someone to see what I'm doing and to think, if that lady could do that at 47, I can do it too. Because it's possible for everybody. Once you get that mindset shift, when you have the desire and the belief and you take action, anybody can make anything possible.
That's pretty awesome, Amy. It's very inspiring to talk to you. Obviously, Tracy has had a very profound impact on you, and all for the positive. Thank you so much for joining us today. But before I let you go, what's that one takeaway that you would want to leave with our listeners? And you can also talk about your programs and what you're doing.
The biggest thing that changed my life was feeling fear and pushing through it anyway. Pushing through the fear in spite of it. I was a woman that lived in fear. Again, I didn't realize it. I kept myself safe. Once you're brave enough to risk rejection, to risk failure, to push through fear, that is where the magic is. It is right on the other side. If you can just put your pride away and worrying about what people think of you to the side and push through that fear, that's where your magic is. And if you are someone that knows, I'm just going through the motions too, I want better relationships with my family, better relationships with friends, I want my career to be better, I want my health to be better, and you're a self-starter, I think my course, Design Your Dream Life, that's on my website, keystocourage.com, I just had a guy reach out to me and he said, you could charge 100 times what you're charging for that course and it is worth every cent. He said, it changed my life. It isn't for everybody though. If you are someone like me, like I needed this. I spent hundreds and hundreds of hours figuring out what's my first step. I took that first step. I created a map and I have this map that's a video and a workbook for anybody that's ready to take the journey.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Amy. Thanks for sharing your story. It's very inspiring. And I'll leave all your details in the show notes for the listeners to get back to you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that episode. Please make sure that you share, subscribe, leave reviews, and spread the word so others may benefit from this content as well. Plan B Success Podcast on your favorite podcasting platform. Thank you.